Holy crap, it's cold out there. What's up, guys? Welcome back to yet another riveting episode here on the Avion Awesome channel. And the winds of change are officially here. Yeah, like the wind is blowing so bad right now that it's actually shaking the camper. Like that is the north winds coming in. There's a huge cold front that's finally making its way down this far south, and we're finally going to get below freezing temperatures like the next 3 days. I think it's going to be like in the mid-20s. Not my favorite time of year, to be perfectly honest. That was also the reason why last year I made sure that I was up out of here right around the November mark, because it's without fail here in central Kentucky. The cold creeps in pretty brutal, pretty fast. We literally have almost no fall. We just go straight from 95 degrees all the way down to 30 degrees. But that is probably one of the biggest things that we as RVers fear, is the cold. Not only is it uncomfortable, but it's also dangerous to a lot of our plumbing, a lot of our pipes. Our tanks could freeze, our batteries could be damaged by, being in cold weather too much. They don't charge as well, they don't charge as efficiently. So there's a lot of reasons to not like the cold. Also, being the crafty people that we are, we're all the time trying to cheat the cold. We're trying to figure out ways to efficiently and effectively keep ourselves warm and toasty and not have a bunch of problems with our RV because of the cold. And that's what I do all the time. I'm so fearful of being cold. I can't stand it. I don't like the cold whatsoever. That's the reason I buy lots of down quilts and all that kind of stuff. But I also wanted to try something completely different this year. I've never tried one before, but I think it's going to work. So what did I get? I got one of these electric blankets. It's one of the 12-volt electric blankets. So if you didn't watch my video from yesterday, I'm attempting to put as much stuff on 12-volt as possible, just kind of see how it goes. So far it's working out pretty good for me. But I've seen a million of these on Amazon, right? The Chinese, are importing plenty of different types of models, different types of fabrics and all that. Well, I found this one at Walmart. I figured, okay, what would happen, let's just say, if I had an electric blanket from Amazon and it went bad on me and I had to run out and go get another one real quick? Well, I just figured, okay, Walmart. So I'll start there, see how good it does. It cost me 20 bucks, and from what I can tell, it's not very big at all. It's maybe like 3 foot long by maybe 5 foot. No, I had that backwards. 3 foot wide by 5 foot long. So it's basically just enough to kind of like cover you. So it's not like a full, quilt or comforter or anything. It's literally just enough to cover, your torso area from maybe like your shoulders down. Not very big, but, that's kind of a good thing in a camper. You want to keep everything as light as possible. So I figured I would try this thing out. I'll test it out and see what kind of electricity draw it has right now. Alright, so like I said, 12-volt power adapter, and it also has a light on it so that you'll know that if it's working. So if the fuse is busted, then the light won't turn on. Let me turn it's sideways here so I can kind of see it. There we go. The light comes on, and it's got a 3-way switch. It's got a high, off, and then a low, so I'm just going to turn it on high heat, and I'm going to unplug everything else just so that we're getting a reading from that and that by itself. Alright, it looks like it's drawing exactly what it's rated for, which is roughly 50 watts, which is about 4 amps. not bad. So if you take 4 amps, you know, let's just say you put it on right before bed, you sleep a full 8 hours. So that would be about 32 amps roughly. So that would take about a third of this battery down per night. I don't think that's too bad. So I'll go ahead and I'll try this thing out tonight, see how well it does. Honestly, I don't see how it could hurt, you know, it's extra warmth. The problem is that I wouldn't lay on top of these things. The wires are like, you know, pretty thin. I'm not really going to be all that confident in the construction of this stuff, and I would really hate for the body weight of somebody laying on top for it to break a wire and then potentially cause a fire because the wires were shorting out or something. So I'll be laying this directly over top of me, kind of acting as like a little barrier of heat in order to help keep me warm. Anyway, so it's not nighttime yet, but I'm going to test it out and see how well it does, and I'll report back to you guys in the morning. Alright, it's about, I don't know, 5:13, quarter after 5, and it's already down to 35 degrees. The low tonight is supposed to be 28 total degrees. And that's about as low as I particularly like it, you know. That's at the bottom end of liking anything, in my opinion. Once it gets down below freezing, just about everything is in danger, so I think it's going to be a rough night for me. Okay, so quick update. I just thought of this, and I know inevitably someone's going to ask, you know, why don't you just use your propane heater or your Mr. Buddy heater or whatever. I could do that, and it would probably warm this place right up, no problem. It really would. The thing that I'm having the issue with is, like, I'm trying to use as many or as much renewable resources as I possibly can, right? Because with the propane situation, if you use it up, then you have to leave and go get more. It's not like that you personally can make any. So I can make new electricity every single day that the sun is out. So I figured that if this thing pulls about 4 amps and I have roughly 6.3 kilowatts total of energy, it's a very small amount in order to ask of yourself, in order to just keep a barrier of heat around you while you sleep. Especially if you're, say, like on the road and you've just pulled off to the side for the night. Maybe you're at a rest stop or at a Cracker Barrel or something like that. You know, you don't want to, you know, try and fire up the generator. You don't want to do anything else so that you have like a space heater or something like that. You just need enough to not freeze, right? I thought that this might be a really good supplement to, say, like a down comforter or a quilt over top of me. Just throw this over top of whatever I'm wearing, get in the bed, pull this on top. I think that would be a pretty good solution. And then if it's only using roughly 32 amp hours per night per 8 hours, that's not an unreasonable amount to easily recharge on any given sunny day with my 40 amp MPPT charge controller. But anyway, enough talking. Like I said, I'm just going to test it out and just see how I do, see if it's enough to keep me comfortable throughout the night. I figure that if I end up waking up sometime in the middle of the night freezing to death, I'll know that it's not quite enough. I'm going to try to use just like what I'm wearing. I'm going to wear a beanie, and I'm going to turn off the space heater, and I'm going to wear my jacket, and I'm just going to use this, and I'll let you know how it goes. Alright, it's about quarter after 5 in the morning, and it was just too much. Like, it's like 25 degrees outside, and while I can sleep out in the cold, I generally have way more down quilts. So I didn't use any of those last night. All I used was one of these like fuzzy throws and the electric blanket. I've got my hoodie on and my beanie on, and I've got like a sport shirt on that's short sleeve, and I've got a pair of sport shirts or shorts and socks on. And it does provide like a nice barrier over top. You know, it kind of like gives you that buffer where the cold isn't getting in if you just stay completely kind of in the fetal position. I think that it would do much better with some insulation over top of the blanket itself. It's just not enough, you know, to like really give you a good sense of comfort. But yeah, I went on ahead and turned on my space heater again. It's just brutal in here. Thankfully it's not as bad as it is outside. Okay, so it's now the next morning and the sun is up finally, so everything is kind of starting to warm up a little bit. It's still pretty daggone cold outside. I know that it's still below freezing, but it's getting better. Anyway, being like an avid hiker, backpacker, and not being afraid to actually sleep out in this type of cold, I really do think that this is good supplemental heat. I don't think that it's going to solve your problems. Like, it's not going to warm up a 24-foot box camper. It might be enough for maybe a van, something like that. It is a Chinese import. I don't know how long it's going to hold up. On the high setting, it uses roughly 3 3/4 of an amp. On the low setting, it's using about 3.1 amps. So really, I think that the only setting worth using is the high setting. With most of these types of things, it's going to be pretty delicate, so I wouldn't like fold it over heavily and crunch those wires. I wouldn't like try and lean across the bed perhaps with your knee and crush any of the resistors that are in the blanket. I think that the blanket itself, you know, it's not very big, it's not very wide. It's supplemental heat, okay? This is not going to solve all your problems. I do think that if you sandwich it between 2 other layers perhaps, it'll be just fine. It'll be more than enough to not only keep you warm, keep you alive, you know, you're not going to freeze to death, and it doesn't use enough power that you're just going to, you know, completely drain even a standard flooded lead acid 12-volt battery. Running at 4 amps, if you had a 100 amp hour battery, it would use roughly 32 of your 50 usable amps. So you would still have a little bit left the next day. If you only had 1 battery, you might get away with running a 12-volt light or something in the morning, but it's not going, that battery's not going to have enough power the next day in order to, say, like fire up your coffee pot or whatever. The power requirement from your inverter would just be too much. So I would recommend at least having 2 batteries ran in parallel so that you have enough amp hours to get some extra stuff done after it warms up. Again, this is not ideal. It really isn't. At least it's with a renewable resource. I have hundreds and hundreds, probably $1,000 worth of down quilts that I use for hiking. And I did another video on those. If you want to check those out, I'll leave a link to it up here in the left-hand corner. But I have that advantage just because I also like to go hiking and camping. But if you don't, I think that you can get away with a couple of these really heavy down or like polyester style blankets, the fuzzy type, the polyester type blankets. I think you'll be just fine. If you dress appropriately for bed and then throw something over top to kind of help you hold in that heat, I think most people are going to do absolutely perfect. But that is like bare minimum. You know, that's roughly going camping. So if you don't like camping, if you don't like trying to fend off the cold, this is probably not going to be a good enough solution for those people. And in that case, you're probably going to want, at the very minimum, a space heater. And with that amount of power draw, you're going to murder your batteries at 1500 watts. It's never going to happen. So that being the case, you're probably going to have to run your generator. So you're looking at roughly, I don't know, $4 or so in gas to keep the generator running all night, to make sure that you had enough warm air to, you know, stave off the cold air in and around you when you got up the next morning. But overall, I'm going to keep using the electric blanket. I'm going to keep tabs on it. I'm going to see how long it lasts. I'm going to see if the wire holds up and make sure that it's still going to be functional after a decent amount of time. It costs $20. You can buy a 20-pound bottle of propane for that amount. That would last you on the Mr. Buddy heater around 100 hours or so on the low setting. So, I mean, you kind of weigh your pros and cons. How much are you going to be in the cold? How much do you really not want to have to constantly be running back and forth to the store to pick up new propane bottles? Either which way it goes, I'm not going to take this one back. I'm just going to keep it and, like I said, see how it goes. And it's not going to throw out a whole bunch of heat, but it is a nice little extra amount of heat. The fabric holds it in pretty good, and you know, you can feel it. It's just not going to cook you out of here. So if you guys have any questions, don't forget to leave those down in the comment section below. I will try and answer them the best I can. At any rate, thanks so much for watching yet another riveting episode here on the Avion Awesome channel. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I'm going to see you guys again on the next one. Peace.